Did you know that I have a course called Women Who Lead that will change everything about how you interact with humans? You'll learn how to make things safe, logical, fun, and memorable so that people will listen to you and love you a little bit more than they already do. All you have to do is go to www.aimwithus.com and click on courses, and it will take you to everything you need to know. I hope to see you there.
Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christie, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy. You guys are it's going to be a great treat today. Words are hard. And I'm really excited to introduce you to my new friend. But before I do, I need you to press some buttons. I need you to subscribe to both this podcast and any other information that you can get out of Productive Joy. Because if you don't, then you don't learn about amazing people like Benah. So we have a great guest with us today, and her name is Dr. Benah Parker. She is a mom of two. One is about to finish or just finished their freshman year of college, and the other just graduated from high school. She's a leader. She's a psychologist. She's a partner. She's a goofball, self-proclaimed. She is also a Broadway show enthusiast enough to have season tickets, and she's read 16 novels so far this year, and by the time this comes out, it's probably going to be more like 20. And she is our guest today on Productive Joy. Benah, welcome to Productive Joy.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, are you ready to have some fun?
I'm absolutely ready. Let's jump in.
So you've studied brains, you know how we think, and you know that people are real finicky. So what would you say in like 30 seconds or less that would make people go, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to keep listening?
Well, there's a challenge.
I know, no stress.
Let's see. In 30 seconds or less, I think people should know that at the end of this conversation, they're going to feel empowered to be more intentional with not only how they're showing up, but where they're spending their time and energy, and recognizing that that is the thing that will help them find that joy that we are all looking for.
Woo, that's exciting. Okay, and that was a pretty big carrot. So we've got to deliver on that now, Benah. So let's begin at the beginning, and you get to decide where the beginning is. You were not born a psychologist. You became a psychologist, and you chose to study some things. So why don't you take us all the way back to what made you decide that this was the direction you wanted to head?
The anchor that I always come back to is 14 years old in high school. I was in marching band. I played trombone for like a dozen years, all through high school and college.
Can you still play? Can you still play?
Oh, I mean, I can pick it up and play some scales, but my chops are gone. I haven't played regularly in a very long time.
It is unfortunate how quickly you lose something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I still have that core of a trombonist, which is part of that goofball identity that I have. But at 14 years old, I was, in band, and our band director sent a handful of us to band leadership training, which is actually a thing. So it was like a week-long summer camp type thing, where it was my first entry into this idea of leadership development, this idea that you weren't just born a leader, but there were things that you could study and be intentional about and learn how to do. And from that point, all through high school and college, it's when I got into psychology. And going to graduate school, my PhD is in social psychology. So it's really this understanding of how the group impacts the individual, how the individual impacts the group. So being able to study leadership and identities and how people can show up and actually be intentional with the identity you want to choose. My dissertation was looking at how people manage all these different social identities, all the hats we wear, and what happens, with one identity. If one identity gets threatened, where are you able to build resilience? How flexible are you in switching those identities? So that kind of all led me into the PhD. And then, I spent a few years in nonprofit work, doing policy work, doing in the corporate world, doing training. And finally, about 8 years ago, I was like, the thing that I love really is helping people not only be better leaders, but figure out how they're showing up as a leader and how that intentionality helps them get that fulfillment in their entire lives, because we're never just that one thing. Yeah. We're never just the leader or just the mom or just the anything, but it's how do you bring all those identities together and show up in a way that helps get you to your own actual goals.
Oh my gosh, how fascinating. Well, and I just heard recently somebody say, how we do one thing is how we do everything.
I say it a lot.
Okay, well then I know we're going to be friends.
Yeah.
Because to me, I actually thought about that driving home from the gym today. I was like, okay, so how do I want to show up, right? What do I want to be known for? What do I want to bring to this world? And that's where productive joy really started, was that I want people to understand that fun and work don't have to be mutually exclusive and that they can go together. But what I heard out of what you just described is that we are wearing a lot of different hats, right? To use that analogy, but ultimately only certain ones fit,
Yeah.
right? And when we're trying to wear hats that don't fit, that's when we get into trouble. Is that kind of what you're teasing out in people?
It's not even so much that they're wearing hats that don't fit, but a lot of the times in the work that I'm doing with my clients, it's realizing that they're wearing a hat that they don't want to wear anymore. Or maybe the hat still fits, but it's not their style anymore. And it's about, okay, well, everyone's used to seeing you in this hat. Whether it's their own internal beliefs about what changes if they wear a different hat, or even not even knowing that they're allowed to take that hat off. That they picked up this hat because it was the hat that society gave them, or they jumped through all the hoops to specifically win the right to wear this hat, and then they don't really like the way it looks anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my goodness. Okay, so do you help people then figure out how to take it off? Like, because I could,
yeah, I generally think of the work I do. Sometimes it's about, when leaders come to me, I think a lot of time they're in that space of, my life looks great on paper. I went to school, I got the degree, I got the job, I jumped through all the hoops, I got the promotion, I've got the fancy office and the title and the income and the da 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 da. And I look around and go, cool, why did I work so hard? Or even if like this is all good, but what's next?
Yeah.
I've done all these things, I'm really successful, but what's next? So sometimes it's saying you're allowed to take, sometimes it's just giving them permission of saying you're allowed to take that hat off. And other times it's like, oh, you've outgrown this hat. By the way, I've never used the hat analogy for this long, but
I am so excited about it. I'm following it 100%.
like it's flowing. And sometimes it's going, you're allowed to take the hat off, but also you've outgrown that hat, and it's really okay to pick your next hat. Instead of just picking up the next hat that people like, well, there's this hat or this hat or there's this one. These are your options. You go, I could pick one, but what if I design my own?
Ooh.
What if I go create my own hat? And that doesn't mean you have to become a haberdashery. Is that the right word for hat maker? You're sure pulling in some old words there, but it doesn't mean you have to learn how to make all the hats, but it's just deciding which one is right for you next. And maybe it turns out the one you're wearing is the right one. And it's just a matter of changing your perspective. Maybe you just need different lighting when you look at it on yourself, right? So it's not always saying throw that hat out, but it's about determining this hat that you're wearing, this identity that you're spending all your time, energy, and effort on. Is it actually the one that serves you? And is it serving the goals that you want for yourself, or is it just serving the ones that you think you're supposed to do?
Ooh, I think that's where I'm going to hang my hat. We're going to be very
We're going to beat this about a day.
held
That's great.
today. Is that we're not stuck, right? And I think we feel stuck sometimes in the space, and the space can be personal or professional because somebody somewhere told us we should, right? And I had a guest not too long ago say we've got to stop shoulding on ourselves, right? And so is it because I think I should wear that particular hat, or is it because I want to? I want to shift from I have to I get to, and that's something I'm personally working on right now. So I can see where you are definitely able to kind of hold up a mirror for people and help them see, is this the space you want to be in? Or is there a different space? And what are you doing to get to the space you really want to be? Do you do that just professionally, or are you helping people personally too? Because you mentioned, the next thing, the job, the whatever, but is it also personal, or do you stick?
It is. And this is where I tend to use that phrase, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, because that's what people often come to me because they're in a leadership role, they're in that position, they're realizing that they're having, whether it's challenges, they don't know how to manage up, or they're struggling with specific issues in their organization. And I go, okay, if you're having trouble communicating at work, chances are you're communicating in your other relationships in the same way. You're making assumptions that People can read your mind when they can't. You think you're very clear, and instead you're giving these mixed messages. And so here's the way we can talk about communication or influence or your executive presence. So a lot of times it starts in the professional sphere. And I mean, across the years, I have so many clients going, oh, this thing that you taught me to use with my board, I just negotiated something with my teenager or with my spouse or, these things, because it's, while we wear all the different hats, you're still just one person. You're still a human being. And again, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So the work we do might start in that professional sphere, and chances are you're going to see ripples and impacts of it throughout every avenue.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I'm just thinking about the older I get, I think the more aware I am of, okay, this is who I am in this space. And when I have to be something else, it's exhausting. So I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to be who I am in every space instead of picking and choosing. And that's freeing. But then I watch my children who are 24 and learning life, wearing the hats, right? Like, and are not exactly what they need to be. So what advice would you have, since you are the parent of adult children also?
Almost adult children, 17 and 19, but they're on the cusp of
adulthood. And I don't know that there's anything magical that happens at 18, is there? But where they're finding out life, right? They're just learning. They're figuring things out. What advice would you have for that age group in this space? Because you've learned a whole lot over the years. What would you tell them that they need to know about this whole concept?
Yeah. And I mean, this is a thing that I do tell my kids, and I tell my clients, and I tell myself on, certain days. It's just that, remember that we get to choose who we are and how we show up and where our time and our energy and our focus goes. And that doesn't mean that we don't have obligations to our community or to our family or to keep your commitments. And also, don't pick up work or stress or worries or issues that aren't yours to carry. I think one of the most powerful things, I guess this was probably, it was about 8 years ago, because it was right before I decided, one of the conversations I had when I decided to do my work full time as opposed to kind of on the side of the 9-to-5 job. One of the mentors, the coaches I was working with, one of her questions she always asked is, what's yours to carry? And that's something that I share with my clients. I share with my kids of, yes, be aware of what people need from you, be aware of expectations, but also be aware that a lot of the times you have more choice in what you're picking up and carrying.
I'm thinking about myself. I have picked up a lot of things that didn't belong to me at all.
Yeah.
Carried them around like heavy things, things that were a little exhausting. And I love that you're helping people figure out that that's not where you need to land, right? Like that.
And I think for so much of us, you get this identity as we love being the problem solver. It feels really good to come in and solve the problems and save the day and be the white knight and put out all the fires. I mean, my dad's a firefighter. I grew up with a real firefighter in the house, and it feels great to be that problem solver, but we don't have to solve every problem. One of the things I often tell people is, not every fire that you see is yours to put out. Some things are meant to burn. A candle can light the way. A fire in the fireplace, it can warm the home. It can draw people to it. Every fire you see doesn't have to be put out, but we get into this reactive mode of thinking something's on fire, I have to fix it. Partly because the adrenaline is, it's a fun rush, and it feels good to be the one who can do it, but you don't have to. You pick and choose your fires. You can pick and choose. That thing's burning. And even right now, some things my youngest is going through, I can tell her all day long, I think that's the wrong choice. And you are old enough to make your own choice. I'm going to be here to catch you. I can give you advice, but I'm giving you the freedom and space to make your decision.
Yeah. That's the hardest part of parenting, don't you think? It's like when you get into this phase, it's like, I know that's really hot and I know you don't want to touch it, but I can't tell you that. So good luck.
Yeah, if I tell you, you're going to just want to touch it more. So here you go. You're going to get a little burned. I've got some burn cream. Here's some aloe.
I know. And it is, For any of you listening that happen to have children who have come of age, if you will, and really that starts at what, 15, 16, right?
Yeah.
Like at that point, we need to be letting go and letting them make decisions because if the first time they ever do is when they go off to college, that's much scarier.
Much.
But it's hard. Nobody preps you for this. When you're raising toddlers, you're like, oh my gosh, this is hard. And it is, but it is a totally different hard than this side of the fence. Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart.
Not at all.
Not at all. Not at all. So I am curious, and I'm not ever asked this question this way, but I'm going to because so you chose to come on Productive Joy.
Mhm.
What about that opportunity sparked your interest?
Part of it is just the approach, this idea that joy is a thing that it does help us be productive. I mean, one of my favorite things, this came from a company I used to work with. One of their isms, mantras, company values was fun gets more done.
Oh, I like
And,
that.
and that's the reality is that we spend so much time thinking that things, and it's fun because this was about 8 years ago. I was working with a group and we're talking about limiting beliefs and everyone's like, oh, well, I have this belief or I have that belief. And then while I was in front of the room talking, I was like, oh, wow, I actually just uncovered one of my own with this belief that anything that's worth doing is going to be hard. Like the hard work is how you get things done. And I went, whoa, what if it doesn't have to be hard?
Mhm.
And coming across your podcast, this idea of productive joy, I'm like, this is something that I want everyone to be able to embrace. And you're amplifying that message out there is we can find our joy. We can find, life. I never would tell anybody that life's going to be easy. There's all sorts of challenges. Everything can be hard if you're looking for hard. And there's also moments of joy. There's moments of, not to sound too American Beauty, these moments of beauty in these things, but there can be peace in the struggle. There can be joy in the work,
Yeah.
and everything doesn't have to be hard.
Beta, that's powerful. And that's also, I'm really glad I asked the question.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to fully steal fun gets more done because, I have a book called Make Work Fun So People Don't Quit. We quit things that aren't fun,
Yeah.
but we forget that day in and day out in the actual workspace. We're like, no, this is serious. Yeah, it is. And if people aren't having fun, no neurons are firing and they're not able to be their best. So stop being yucky.
Yeah.
Right? Like if we could just stop people from being yucky, wouldn't that be great?
That would be great. And in fact, it's funny that you say that because I remember, again, going back to being in band at college, University of Texas Longhorn Band, show band of the Southwest.
Horns.
I was vice president of the band when I was in college. And when you're running for one of the offices, you have to give a little speech. And in my speech, I was practicing with friends and I said something about like, this is going to be fun. And if it's not fun, I don't want to do it. And they're like, oh, don't say if it's not fun, you don't want to do it because then it sounds like you're not ready to do the work. So I took that line out, but the whole point was like, I'm going to make this job fun. And yes, it's going to be work. There were, 400 something students in the band that we were leading and I was the social vice president. So I was planning all the parties.
You should have said fun. Oh my goodness. If ever there was somebody that should have said fun, it was you.
Yeah. And fun was definitely part of it, but I just didn't say I'm not going to do it if it's not fun. It was more of I'm going to make it fun because the work can be fun.
It really can. So how would you define productive joy? If you had to define it, because you've said why it's important, but describe it or define it.
I think that for me, the definition of productive joy would be simply recognizing that allowing yourself to find that joy, like you said, it makes those neurons fire. It helps you see the alternatives that maybe you would, if you were just focused on the work, you would close off to certain opportunities, to certain connections, to certain conversations that when we all know if you're having fun, if you're in a group and people are laughing and having a good time, that's attractive. People want to come in and join that group. They want to be part of that because we all love joy. We all love happiness. We all love laughing. We all love, that's why so many substances are a good time, right?
Right, because it takes those inhibitors and
exactly. We turn off some of those inhibitions. We have a good time. We all seek that. And I think it's this really false belief that if you're working, then it's serious. And there are certainly moments that need to be serious. There are moments that like read the room, don't come in and tell a joke if everyone's in a somber place, if you're processing something, if there's a crisis, maybe that's not the time to tell the jokes. And that doesn't have to be the default. That doesn't have to be the only way.
No, it doesn't. So, do you help individuals with this kind of stuff? Do you help groups with this kind of stuff? Like, tell me more about what you do. You can give me a day in the life if you'd like, or just
Yeah.
kind of overall. What sorts of things do you do, Dr. Parker?
So a lot of it, my sweet spot, I love working one-on-one with leaders because we get into the deep, the nitty-gritty conversation. So having those conversations one-on-one, working with someone for, 6, 12. I have clients I've worked with for 3 and 4 years simply because I always tell them I get to be the spotlight that shines a light on those blind spots and reminds you of the things that you do control and where you're spending a lot of time and energy on stuff that is just out of your control. Like that's just worrying. So a lot of it, I love doing the one-on-one work, and I also work with companies. I work with teams, so it can be a communication piece, it can be a leadership development. There's lots of different ways to work together, but I love the one-on-one work because we can go really deep in those.
Well, and that's what I was going to say is what's your favorite, but I think you've already said
Yeah.
it's really that one-on-one opportunity. So tell me about a transformation that you helped happen with one of those clients, because if they're still there 3 and 4 years later,
Wow.
they're definitely seeing some shift. So why don't you, obviously all names will be kept secret, but tell us about it.
None of us have favorite clients.
Of course
We
not.
never have
No,
favorite
absolutely not.
No. I love all my clients. And one of my favorite clients that I worked with for a very long time, he was very high up in the Navy and he was on the path to becoming admiral. And he, like, the decision point was a few years out. So when he'd reached out to me, he said, "Hey, I'm on this path. I've done all the things. I've been in the Navy for 20 something years. I'm, 05, 06, whatever the label was at that time." And he was like, "I just don't know if this is what I want to do." He's like, "I can keep jumping through their hoops, but I recognize all the things I've compromised." His daughter at that time was a year old. And he's like, "I'm not spending this time with her. My wife is," and all these things. And we worked together. And through the process, he had kind of established his own leadership brand. He was speaking in engagements. He was starting to write a book. He was doing all this stuff to kind of chart his path out of the military, because leaving the military is kind of a hard thing to do. And it got to the point where they asked him, they're like, "Okay, like we're setting the board for this next level of promotions. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do?" And he stepped back. He's like, "I can tell them I'm retiring, or I can just stay on this path." And we'd already been working together for a couple of years. And finally, through our coaching, our conversations, he sat down and he basically told them, "I want to do interesting things with interesting people in really cool places. And I don't know that this path I'm on is going to get me there." So he was ready to retire. And about a month or 2 later, they came back and they said, "Hey, by the way, this isn't public knowledge. This position hasn't existed before, but we're doing this really cool thing in a different country. We think you're the right fit to head it up." And now he's on the other side of the world as the top US leader in another country, bringing their Navy, training them to all of the expertise that the US Navy has. And for him, it ended up being the right choice to stay there. But for most of our work together, he was ready to leave and he had a path out. But because he was able to he had the clarity and the confidence to tell them, like, "You've invested in me, I've invested in you. I think our paths are diverging because this is what I want out of my career and my life and everything that you give when you're in the military." And they were like, "Hey, we don't want to lose you. Let's see what we can do." And then this magic kind of happened that I don't think would have happened if we hadn't spent that time getting him that clarity, making him aware of what was really driving him at that stage of his career, what his values were, and how to find that alignment.
He designed his own hat.
He really did.
And you helped him figure out.
Hat.
Yeah.
And he's just wearing it differently now.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so thank you for sharing that story. And what a great example of what can happen when we know ourselves first and we know what we're looking for, and then we ask for it. I don't think we ask for it very often, and we just assume, well, this role doesn't fit me anymore, so I guess I have to go somewhere else. And the reality is, a really great organization will find the right fit for the great person that they've invested in. And if that doesn't happen, we have to be okay with that door shutting.
Exactly. Because unfortunately, they're not all great organizations. And even when they're great organizations, not all the people who hear the request have the power to make the change that you're asking for. So,
Or the
but
willingness, right? Like, I don't
yeah,
even know that it's always the power. I think sometimes it's the willingness because change is scary. And when you ask for a change that is uncharted territory, it's all of a sudden like, well, wait, we don't do it like that.
yeah. Or
Uh-oh.
who are you to ask for that?
Right.
Because they weren't brave enough to ask for their own. So we're like, well,
Right.
if I can't ask, you can't ask. You go, no, you can ask. You just didn't realize it.
Yeah,
For a
you,
second.
you had the permission all along.
Yeah.
You just thought you were stuck with these three hats. That's all
Yeah.
you thought was available.
Yeah.
I love that. I am pretty sure that I could talk to you for like hours and we would have a lot of fun with it. But I have a feeling that other people wouldn't be as excited about our conversation as I would. So I do have some rapid fire questions for you. But before we do that, I would love for people to be able to find you. So, what is the best way to find Dr. Parker?
I am most active on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
and it's at Benah Parker. So it's Benah Parker. I'm the only Benah I know. So I think that was
Yeah, tell us about your name. Where did your name come from?
my parents were hippies. I was told it was a Scandinavian name from like the early 1800s, but I have found no proof to corroborate that. It came from someone my dad worked with and they liked it. But my middle name is Japanese. My sister has a Russian first name, Irish middle name. So
Well, that's fun. So I have a dear friend. Her name is Kara Lee, and it is spelled Kerrale. Not even close to what
yeah,
I mean, you'd look at that word and you'd go, yeah, I got nothing. But
yeah.
that's exactly what she says. My parents were hippies.
That was from
And
hippies.
they got creative and yeah, Kara Lee. So I love it. Great name. And so LinkedIn's where you would want them to find you. And
LinkedIn.
when they go there, they're going to find all kinds of fabulous content about the brilliant Dr. Parker. I love it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I am on Instagram and YouTube, but that's not as intentional. I'm mostly intentional on LinkedIn.
You got to be intentional in one place. What I'm learning is you can't be all things to all people. Like it's just a lot. Okay, so I do have some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay, what's your definition of fun?
Oh, anything that makes me belly laugh, makes my face hurt.
I love it. I love a good belly laugh.
Me too.
How do you know that you are showing up as your authentic self?
The self-talk in my head is nicer.
Gosh, I love that.
I'm like, no, that was exactly how I wanted to show up. And I give myself a little pat on the back. Go, yeah, that was aligned. That was authentic. I'm good.
I did it. I did it. Okay. Oh my gosh, I love that. And I think everybody listening can relate to that. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
Okay. So pattern interrupts. Interrupting the pattern I'm in. I have a Post-it note that I keep that reminds me the struggle is an illusion. I'm showing you the Post-it because sometimes I recognize that I'm in a space where I'm showing up with stress or frustration or and it comes back to that belief that things have to be hard to be good. And I go, oh, nope, I'm making it hard for no reason. So I take a breath, I shake it out, I move my body, I'll go outside, I'll talk to the dog, just something to get me out of the physical space. So a lot of times that physical movement can interrupt the pattern. It's whether playing some good music, doing some stretches, I'll stand next to my desk and do squats, just something to change the physiology, which can change that thought pattern too.
Gosh, I love that. The struggle is an illusion. I'm fully stealing that too. You gave me so many things like fun gets more done. The struggle is an illusion. Pattern interrupts. These are all things I plan to steal.
Go for it.
Last question, and this is going to be tough because we've talked about a lot of really great things, but people really zero in on one. So, what's the one thing that you really want people to walk away from this podcast knowing or remembering?
I think the one thing is to remember that we are allowed to define success on our own terms. That success doesn't have to be what we always believed it was, what society tells us was, what's expected for whatever hat we're wearing that day. You can define success for yourself.
And design your own dang hat, right?
I think you're not a hat person, but people are putting hats on you whether you know it or not. So pick yours.
I think we're all hat people now, and we use that analogy from beginning to end.
There we go. We did it.
Well done. Well, this was a genuine pleasure, and I am so grateful that you chose to share your brilliance on Productive Joy because it's the kind of brilliance that we all need. And so, friends, go find Dr. Parker and message her and say, hey, I need more of what you have, and I want to be like that guy that found the dream job and figured it out because he designed his own hat. And so thank you for being here today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Good, good. Well, I had a lot of fun. And I mean, ultimately, this is productive joy after all.
Exactly.
And for our listeners, thank you for sticking with us, for continuing to be a part of this journey, for loving us through all of the different opportunities and the different people. And we just hope that today you found one or two or six nuggets of wisdom, maybe it's a phrase or two that you're going to take with you. And my goal for you today and every day is that you figure out a way to turn fun into action.